What I mean by the word e-Kailasa, listen intensely, come to you. Kailasa coming to you. I will revive Hinduism. I am a Hindu revivalist, not by any revolution, but by evolution. Model community. Kailasa, enlightenment ecosystems. Sarvanya people live power manifestation and possibilities manifestation happens. It's a fundamental truth. So don't keep quiet thinking that if one sampradaya is attacked, only that sampradaya is going to be affected.
Hinduism, by the principle of Dharmo Rakshati Rakshitaha. When you protect Dharma, Dharma protects.
Nithyananda. The next segment is we're going to see how this glorious, the untold story of Hindu Holocaust. So broadly, we can Will Durant, from his book The Story of Civilization, he says that the Mohammedan conquest of India is probably the temples carried out by the warriors. And all of this happened between 880 to 1700 AD, when the millions of Hindus were converted to Islam. 1 million deities and sculptures were destroyed. The conquering armies burnt villages, devastated the land, plundered people's wealth, took Brahmins and children and women of all classes captive, flogged with thongs of raw law. Al-Hidayah, one of the most influential works of Second Sunni jurisprudence, still in use today as a legal manual, it very hard upon them because God is the assistance of those who serve him, and destroyer of his enemies and infidels. And it is necessary to implore his aid upon every occasion. The Prophet moreover commands us to do so. Being converted, then you have every right to destroy the infidels, as per the legal manual of the Islamic law. And tread down their grain, because by these means they will become weakened, and their resolution will fail, and their force be broken. These means are therefore all sanctified by the law. So the law itself sanctifies all the horrendous acts of disarming of Hindus as converted to Alauddin Khilji by his Qazi or legal advisor, who says that Hindus are like mud. If silver is demanded from them, they must agree. The Prophet had already ordained, if the Hindus do not accept Islam, they should be imprisoned, tortured, and finally put to death, and their properties must be confiscated. To keep the Hindus in abasement is especially, therefore, the entire community who invaded India deployed Qasim Hindu Shah Firista. He says that the Raja of Nagarkota, after sustaining some loss, submitted but was restored to his dominions. The name of Nagarkota was on this occasion changed to that of Mohammedabad. Sultan Feroze on this occasion, so that he sent the image of Naushaba to Mecca to be thrown on the road that it might be trodden underfoot by the Philippines. The Hindu prisoners were divided into 4 sections and taken to each of the bosoms of their mothers and their corpses left there. The economic and the psychological destruction of Hindu civilization happened between the 17th that I have seen great people starving to death before my eyes. And I am convinced that this exhaustion and starvation are not due, as their beneficiary claims, to be overpopulation and superstition, but to the most sordid and criminal exploitation of one nation by another in during the British occupation, $45 trillion were looted from India over 200 years. 80 native kingdoms usurped by the British Raj. The British came to one of the richest countries of the world. Over 200 years of exploitation, looting, and destruction of scientific Darwinism, racism, and social Darwinism, the British justified their conquest and oppression of dark-skinned people as humanity. England was her wealth, the glorious work which God seems to have laid on the English race to replenish the earth and subdue it. Charles Kingsley, celebrated professor, historian, friend of Charles Darwin, and priest in the Church of England. Colonial subjugation, 2 races of men. As for religion, no people have ever drawn a more gross and disgusting picture of the universe than what is being presented in the writings of the Hindu. The Mohammedan is more manly. Colonial subjugation. The Catholic Church performs 250 years of ethnic cleansing in Goa. The fathers of the church forbade the members, refusing to remain any longer in a place where they had no liberty and were liable to imprisonment. To see Hindus and Muslims fighting side by side under each other's command against the foreign oppressor. They vowed this would not happen again. Divide the colonial subjugation. The British Empire used all possible means to destroy the Hindu civil and cultural institutions in order to delegitimize Hindu scriptures, to instill anti-Hindu narratives, destroyed indigenous Gurukul education system, destroyed local industries and forced importation of British goods, banned Indians from owning or producing the firearms. Now, and export policies and poor infrastructure management caused multiple famines in India, claiming tens of millions of lives. Most recently in Bengal, 1943. Indians were forced to eat meat. British invaders destroyed the local industry to ensure dependence and poverty. Prior to colonial rule, India was the world's leading textile manufacturer, textiles from being sold in foreign markets. Within a generation, the Hindu weavers were turned into beggars and their indigenous skills were lost forever. Proficient at maintaining the locomotive strings that they started designing and building their own models at a fraction of the cost of the imported British trains. The British Parliament responded by taxation and the ruin of Hindu temples. It was strange but determined piece of policy when throughout the country the pagoda lands were resumed by the East India Company in the lapse of years and natural death. Some of the most celebrated temples in the country are worse off, but there are still Allah's many more strongholds of the devil. And other low caste children constituted 70 to 84% of the students. In contrast, a century of direct British misrule of India left the pin and blood and color, but English in taste and opinion, in moral and in intellect. To that class, we may leave it to refine the vernacular dialects, their best efforts to adopt the English language, clothing and mannerisms. The anglicized brown British native clerks of India were often viewed with contempt and ridiculed as Bengali babus by their rajas into proper British gentlemen. Concerned at the raising awareness of the nationalism, Sorry for the technical glitch. The colonial subjugation, converting the native Hindu Rajas into political and psychological management of India and Indians. Thus, they began to focus on the education of native princes and the pursuit of the objective in Macaulay's Minute on Education of 1837. Into the Criminal Tribes Act of 1871, the British government passed the Tribes Act, where various ethnic communities were deemed subversive to colonial authorities simply because they did not convert it, had children separated from the parents and held in penal colonies or quarantined without conviction or due process. Upon release from British custody, to demonize the Hindus and feed the stereotype of savage Oriental, British authorities and media sensationalized the stories of bloodthirsty thuggies or bandits who would offer the human sacrifices to the wicked, suspend the civil liberties, and target subversive elements that challenged the British hegemony. The secular India, where the Hindu temples were looted and neglected. Post-independence, the theft of jewels and deities and alienation of the temple land. Many temples constructed at least 1,500 years ago dedicated to Lord Ayyappa in Kerala, where the South India represents one of the Hinduism's unique spiritual ecosystems. The form of Ayyappa worshipped as the Sabarimala in night are equally allowed access, while the Sabarimala is a single exception. Ayyappa devotees undergo 41 period of celibacy, fasting, and other penances. Prior to it, over 50 million devotees a year, and it is one of the world's largest pilgrimage sites that is exceeded only by Mecca. Given its prominence, the Sabarimala temple has been targeted by the anti-Hindu social activists for years as part of their broader Keshavan. He says that if a Hindu temple is destroyed, that much superstition is being destroyed. So you can see openly it is a statement made by somebody in the government that is so anti-Hindu. Next is the media narratives used to stereotype and demoralize the Hindus. The use of propaganda against the enemy supported by such military, economical, or the political measures may as be required. Such propaganda are the same as those that is being used in civilian life, radio, newspaper, motion pictures, etc. The secular India, in which the media narratives used to stereotype and demoralize. You can see here how India today denigrates the Hindu sari while praising the Muslim hijab. The glaring double standard only makes sense in the light of the anti-Hindu colonial stereotypes perpetuated in modern India. The relentless campaign of psychological warfare is a textbook case of internalized racism. What is the result? The result is Indians spend billions of money annually on fairness cream to lighten their skin to be more like their former British masters. And when we went through three different phases of Hindu Holocaust, the first being the physical destruction by the Islamic invaders, the next being the identity delegitimization and the double genocide imposed by. At this stage, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Jagadguru Mahasannidhanam, His Divine Holiness Bhagwan Nithyananda Paramashivam, revived the amount of hard work and the amount of revolution that the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has created in last 26 years in reviving the Sanatana Hindu Dharma for the second time. In the next segment, we're going to see some of the important contributions of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism in combating the ongoing pandemic and how. So before we go to the next segment, let's take a short break and we'll be right back.
What I mean by the word e-Kailasa, if you cannot come to Kailasa, it's okay. Kailasa can come to you. Kailasa coming to you is e-Kailasa.
Revival is not by any revolution, but by evolution. Kailasas, enlightenment ecosystems, Sarvanya Peethas all over the world. Hinduism cannot live exclusively as one sampradaya. So don't keep quiet thinking that if one sampradaya is attacked, only that sampradaya is going to be affected. All of us are ecosystem.
By the principle of Dharmo Rakshati Rakshitaha, when you protect Dharma, Dharma protects you.
We will make the whole planet flourish spiritually. The spiritual prosperity will happen to the whole planet. We all have to coexist.
Welcome back. And now, as we shared at the start of this segment, we will go over by none other than the United Nations as the report on the prevention of femicide has been published in India. Women and children in India is quite abysmal, as one has seen from various reports. Despite tremendous public outcry against crimes against women and children, such as rape, sexual violence, gender-based harassment, female infanticide, happen unabated in India. As Bhagwan said, the erosion according to the Thomson Reuters Foundation 2018 survey. That's a very concerning statistic for a nation which is, for Bharat, which is known to be proud for the position that it has always given women. According to the National Crimes Records Bureau, the rape of minor girls increased by 82% in the year 2000 of governance. This weaponization of sexual violence targeting women and children is part of a more pervasive and systematic campaign targeting certain indigenous spiritual traditions, minority communities, and their leaders, especially those from linguistic and religious minority groups and of dark-skinned people of indigenous. The extremist militants are the ones who take on the garb of Hinduism, but actually they are anti-Hindu. The women, children, and young girls of the ASMT community were the most vulnerable target of these neo-Hindutva extremist militant forces. The neo-Hindutva terrorists despise Hindu women in monastic and priestly roles. The spiritual head of the ASMT has publicly declared himself, as we all know, Bhagwan has declared himself to be specific temple rituals for even gay marriage, as per more than 5,000-year-old indigenous spiritual scriptures. The ASMT represents one of the most
mainstream media and the social media of sensational screening and manufacture of misinformation and hate speech that is marginalizing minority communities, especially targeting women with the use of image morphing and deepfake videos. Jagadguru Mahasannidhanam, His Divine Holiness Bhagwan Nithyananda Paramashivam. The neo-Hindutva affiliated media published articles with pictures of ASMT female monks with captions such as sodomized to commit suicide and circulated false news of the same in media as a rumor. This smear campaign is just not limited to ASNT women, the ASNT female monks, but the most extremist. The US court sentenced the child rapist to 57 months of imprisonment. This did not damage the remedy. The child rapist filed several vexatious litigations in India and in India, however, the neo-Hindutva media ran 14,000 hours of hateful programs marginalizing the ASNT child rape victim, ASNT actress Ranjita, ASNT narratives such as hang the sin swamis, Hindu monks and nuns. Several media houses continue to publish such defamatory articles, causing marginalization of the ASNT community, especially women and the girls, dangerously inciting mob violence, and influencers exercise a massive influence on the masses and even the court judges. The media is easily able to sway public opinion and even sway the opinion of the judges. Sadly, there is massive influence on the masses and even the court judges. The media is easily able to sway the public opinion and even sway the opinion of the judges. In a court proceedings directly involving the ASNT consequence, therefore, there is no legal recourse that is available for India. Although the courts ordered in her favor, restraining the misinformation and telecast of the fabricated deepfake videos, the neo-Hindutva media kept pushing the implementation of the order of various quasi and kept re-uploading, re-telecasting the same abusive footage and continued the misinformation propaganda to date. Any complaint on the media in the High Court is redirected to NBSA, BCCC, and any such other bodies which do not ever is a self-regulatory body, is a toothless and is known to disregard its own guidelines and orders, even when the member channels ridicule and shame dead celebrities. The NHRC, the National Human Rights Commission, has made the Paramashivam of raping his own biological mother, a Hindu nun, on the occasion of his father's sad demise. The channel went on to justify their sad sexual objectifications of Hindu nuns, terming it as an unbiased reporting. Indian courts are asking the ASNT nuns and girls with the defamatory sexualized allegations. In 2017, a court penalized journalists continued the smear campaign. On 2nd of March 2010, the sensational and repeated screening of the fabricated deep and the neo-Hindutva terrorist. On 7th of June 2012, Bengaluru, neo-Hindutva militants attacked on the ASNT monastery. Several ASNT nuns were raped. The Chief Minister of Karnataka cruelly and illegally interrogated children in the ASNT school, which is Gurukul. The interrogation was done without the consent of the parents, with no video recording of the examiners, late night beyond the time permissible by law. The state interrogators shamed and ridiculed the children, particularly girls, of their dress, pressurized them to quit their spiritual religious lifestyle, and forced them to. Raids were conducted by the state, and many other vexational legal proceedings and orders were executed by the state to forcibly shut down the school. On 28th of October 2015, an ASNT female monk was molested and escaped. A female saint, Andal, by politically owned media. Several obscene morphed videos depicting Nithyananda and the ASNT children were uploaded on social media by unknown groups. Of these children in the High Court, police complaint against the state authorities were closed without investigation, and the petition to the court was forced to be withdrawn by the court. Such targeted persecution of Hindu nuns and female religious leaders is not limited to ASNT, but aimed at destroying the rights of the indigenous female spiritual leaders. So, and several contributions of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and his ASFG community, which revived the legitimacy of Sanatana Hindu Dharma more than 26 years, and how especially the female for this so now we will be entering into the celebrations of Guru Purnima.
Where you are. If you cannot come to Kailasa, it's okay. Kailasa can come to you. Kailasa coming to you is e-Kailasa.
Everyone who is participating in this puja to come and settle down.
चलित भ्रमितं